You know, I like your straight and no nonsense approach, and I can also see how some people who are more sort of in the intellectual academic world, they like to be polite, more sort of, you know, not getting to the point really. But isn't it a stage in our development maybe that I see some people like maybe we could take Dr. Sunik, whom we will meet later. Like he's come more around to viewpoint, is my impression. Also some other people who, like Jeff Renz, who used to be very afraid of getting close to the Zionist problem, as I saw it. But they're getting more, say, straight on that
Well,
problem.
if I'm having a positive impact there, Sunik is a very wonderful, Dr. Sunik is a very wonderful man. And, you know, but I got something I contest. I'm going to argue with you about something. Maybe I don't have an impression of myself properly. Sometimes other people can see you better, but I don't think that I've really said anything impolite here. You see, now I'm not criticizing you, but when I'm saying this is the perception. You see, I don't think it's impolite to tell my son not to put his fingers on the. I don't think I'm being impolite, you know, in that manner. And I hope, and this is one of the things I'm stressing, that we can tell this truth and discuss these facts that we must discuss, and these facts of history, science, nature, that we must discuss and do it in a decent way, a polite way, even a loving way. And I'll tell you something, and this is a very important issue. You know, none of those like buzzwords they use all the time about this cause and about people like myself. They always use the word hate. Mm. And I tell you, maybe they see me as someone who hates, but they must not know me very much, because I wouldn't endure the things that I've endured because of a silly low emotion like hate. You know, the reason why I've stuck with it over these years, and there's so many other different careers I could have had in my life, where you get public accolades for your kind of work that doesn't challenge and don't make people hate you. And then you want to see hate, just start telling the truth, and the real hate will come out of the woodworks. Just look at it. If you saw my emails, and you know what hate was. I have these things because I have a deep love, and the love I have is not simply for my own people. Yes, I'm bursting through my heart for the love of my European people, and the tragedy and there's pain in my heart to see what's happening to our very existence and freedom and values on this earth. But I love and respect, in a real sense, all people on the planet. And I don't love my people, I want to preserve my people because I hate others. In fact, the way I love all the people on the earth, or at least respect all the people on the earth, it means I also have that right to preserve my heritage, this diversity of the planet
which is a natural
can exist. Of course, it's natural.
God made it that way.
And is that polite? I think it's more than polite.
It is polite.
I think it's a demand of the human being.
Respect.
But it's also, look, if you see a terrible wrong, if you saw a child who was being mistreated or molested or whipped or damaged terribly or something like that, don't you think that you have an absolute human obligation to go and try to protect that child, or a woman, say, that was being bullied by a man and beaten up, or an elderly person that was being pushed to the sidewalk and robbed? I mean, there are some people that could watch an 80-year-old woman have her purse ripped out of her thing and her shoulder and the pain ripped and pushed to the sidewalk and maybe half killed, and would stand there and say, it's not my business, or I'm not going to get involved in somebody else's business, or, you know, it's are too cowardly to do so. My nature is that I have an absolute human obligation, and also I say even goes beyond human, because everybody has certain traditions, and the way, and part of it gives it, what things that give us the strength is the fact that we have traditions, and we have a sense of who we are and our identity, and the identity we had as Europeans, and I think this identity can also be shared by other people. The identity we had as Europeans is that we were people that protected the innocent, that wouldn't allow an elderly person to be pushed to the ceiling or a child to be molested. And we once had the identity that we would, even at the cost of our own lives, we would sacrifice our own life to preserve our way of life, our traditions, our language, our music, our architecture, our freedom, our independence, that there are even some things on the planet that are even more valuable than life itself, our honor. But more importantly even than that, and because the truth is that, okay, honor itself and courage, even willing to sacrifice itself, if it's in the cause of life, and if it's in the cause of higher life and better life and more meaningful life and more beautiful life, all right, then obviously even the sacrifice of life is worth it, because what you're doing by that is you're ensuring, more life. You're ensuring a more proliferation of the great things.
That's far above being polite, and I even think you are very polite when you talk about these things.
So maybe I say that the people who defend our heritage, and they do it in a decent way, not a person that's going around using racial epithets or attacking innocent people. There's no profit and no goodness in someone just attacking people on the street because of their different complexion and different racial genealogy and different features and even different mentality. In fact, I think that is absolutely wrong. But they must understand that trying to destroy our heritage is attacking our people. And so I will defend our human rights the same as I would not tolerate the human rights of any other person in our thing being offended.
And also I think you've said that, and as many people agree with you on that also, we have to stand up as white people, as I understand it, not as much as Westerners or Western culture. Like, it's also getting away from the point we are white, and it's as white people we are attacked and being brought down all over the place. So it's part of being courageous also to say, okay, I am white, I can't help that, and we have to be here also.
Well, first of all, that's another good example. We're so artificial in this world. What is culture? And I think culture is very valuable, and every culture has a certain expression. But there is a tie, and we go right back to the natural world again. And this is a difference between like artificially produced food and and biofood, in a sense, is that culture has a tie with nature, with the nature of the human beings that create the culture and the genetic gene pool and the genetic traits that make up a people. And I view culture in a real sense as the same way that a certain seed of genetic quality produces a certain kind of flower of a certain kind of color and a certain kind of size, a certain type of fragrance, right? A certain type of taste, for that matter. If you taste it, a certain type of creation of energy, a certain type of creation of aura, a certain type of how much CO2 they consume and how much oxygen they put in the air, all these different things, and again, we're going right back to nature, and I see my view of life as being rooted in the natural world, and as people, as part of that. Where do nations come from? Okay, nations, in a real sense, in a healthy sense, come from a tribe of people of a common heritage and background, which have a genetic reaction to their environment over hundreds or thousands of years, and even they develop certain characteristics, and a nation is formed. The French came from the Franks. The Danes, Denmark came from Danes. Vikings. The Germans came from Germans, right? I mean, that's where we even get the names of these countries, to a great extent. And and really a natural nation is a nation composed basically of a particular or dominant identity. And that's why when you have multiculturalism, and often you say that multiculturalism, and this is in the name of, we're going to have multiculturalism in the name of peace and love and brotherhood. And what does it produce? The United Nations says that we have more wars than ever before on the planet. And you know what? We got more multiculturalism. And most civil wars, most wars of terrorism, most terrible oppressions, most genocides on Earth have been produced by what? By ethnic conflict.
Always.
And especially within nations. At least when you have borders and you get good fences, you can minimize the ethnic conflict, right? But you got them in the same nations, and boy, it's crime, it's hate, it's when are we going to open our eyes? We don't produce love and brotherhood by forcing people, and you have to do it by force, because, by the way, you look at every poll, every nation, the people want to protect their borders. The Arab countries don't want massive numbers of non-Muslim Christians moving in, or Europeans moving in, until they change their culture. And I've lectured throughout. And by the way, I respect Muslims. I respect their culture. In fact, the Islamic faith has done a tremendous amount, I think, good for the Arab world. It fits their people. And I think that they pray 6 times a day. They're reminded to be honorable. And if you look at their crime rates, for instance, and their problems of that, compared, as soon as you get down into equatorial Africa, where they don't have this religious underpinning, the rape goes up, the crime goes up, the destruction of society, and it seems to fit their culture. That's not what I want for Europe, but I can respect their culture for them. And so I kind of lost the point there. But so where do nations come from? They come from people.
Yeah.
And where do cultures
brings me to a question which could.
And where does culture come from? Cultures come basically from nations. Even the Roman Empire was a nation, you see, and Europe became kind of like the white nation.
Yeah.
And
I would like to ask you something which is in that line. We have these nationalistic parties. We also have one in Denmark called the Danish People's Party. I don't know how much you know about that party, but you know something about that maybe, and also the Front National and the BNP and so on.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that sometimes these parties have both a fear of any kind of alliance they're afraid of with the Muslims. Like if people say something nice about the Muslims, they think that no, we have to handle that problem first of all. That's one thing, and the other thing is that there's this philosophical movement, literary movement of the new European right. They have the same fear, the fear of talking about the Jews. You can never talk about the Jews, apparently, in these circles. And if they're the underpinnings, the theoretical underpinnings of our thinking, where does that take us? If they can't handle the Jewish problem, which it seems to me a little bit like you have a person who wants to go from here to the sea, or from A to B, but he can't handle that. So he goes from A to Z to Y to north, south, and never goes to the sea.